I have a child with special needs, certain things that I had to put in place. Had to tell my husband, if I'm gone, it's okay for you to find somebody else. I'm preparing to die. But right now, Kelly is living. Make no mistake about it. I am choosing to live. Today, right now, I'm living. I come in there, I say, good morning. This is the life I have. No need crying about it. No need saying, why did I get it? No need saying this is not fair. It's a waste.
Welcome to Capacity Combos. I'm Raquel Hopkins, and this is a space for thoughtful conversations about who we become when life asks more of us. Here we talk with people whose lives and work reflect real capacity, how they stayed engaged, made hard decisions, and grew without shrinking in the face of challenge. This is where we explore what life demanded and the moment you realize I can hold more than I thought. So today's conversation is with someone I'm truly inspired by. If meeting life as it were was a person, it would be her. My guest is Kelly. And while her story includes cancer, this is not a cancer story. This is a capacity episode. So it's about how she's chosen to live when certainty was taken away. So Kelly, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Yes, I am really excited to have you.
And I'm excited to be here.
All right, Kelly, introduce yourself.
So I'm Kelly. Hi, everybody. And I guess we're going to talk a little bit about my life today. And I can't think of anybody better to talk about it with. So I'm ready for this ride.
So take us back, because you lawyer, HR professional. When I met you, you were transitioning into a new role.
Oh, you're so kind. When you met me, you were there to help me in an executive role. And I think I spent our first meeting in tears. I had a little bit of a rough time at that job. So, so I work for the United States government. Don't hold that against me. I actually love my job, despite all the changes, but I work for the government, and it's been a year and a half ago, just 6 days before I was scheduled to begin a new job, I learned that I had cancer out of the blue. Generally out of the blue, but it was really out of the blue. It was really like...
Tell us why it was out of the blue.
So it's not like I was sick or anything. And I have to tell you, this may sound strange, but for many years, I'll tell you my age, I'm 55. And for probably about 25 years, I've been kind of prepared to have breast cancer because my mother had it. My grandmother had it. My grandmother's sisters had it. And so I've been seeing a high-risk breast specialist since I was 30, and we had a plan and everything. So that would not have been a surprise nor unexpected, and I probably would have just been like, okay, I know what to do. And so didn't really have any crazy symptoms or anything. Just a couple things, some blood tests and things were off, and started seeing a doctor. One thing led to another, and I ended up at the emergency room at the direction of my gastro doctor. And while in the emergency room, that was the first indication that I had that it could be something really, really serious. One of the doctors said, well, we need to do a test to rule out the C word. And I said, the C word? We're all big girls and boys. What? Say the word. What are we talking about here? And he said, well, we want to rule out cancer. And right then, I was like, wait a minute. I thought this was some kind of infection. And so within 2 days, that was July 2024. And in 2 days, I learned that I had a cancer called ampullary cancer, which is very close to pancreatic cancer. It's a digestive system cancer. It's very serious. It's very rare. And that was the beginning of this crazy, crazy story.
So you find out that C word.
Yep.
You have this cancer. And I remember when you were sharing, one thing that stood out to me is you didn't outsource your thinking. You traveled to different states. You got as much information as possible. How did you decide what information to take in and what to ignore?
I think initially it wasn't a conscious decision. I think initially we are wired a certain way, and that's what I believe. And so my body kicked in. I think there was some shock initially because there are certain things I don't remember. Like I remember asking people, "How did you get to the hospital?" And they're like, "You FaceTime me." I'm like, "What?" I FaceTime people. But in the beginning, there was just a bit of, just autopilot. And I did Google, and Google was bad. It was bad. And I have never been a person to like dwell in the negative. I just not a space that's comfortable for me. It's probably the trait I like the least in people who are like whiny and negative and sad and depressed and all. I'm always like, let's go. Let's try, what can we do? How can we be better? So after that initial shock, a few people started saying, hey, I know a guy and I work for a doctor. A family member's friend worked at that hospital, and she went to her doctor and said, hey, this lady is a cousin of my close friend. Who would you tell her to see? So I started getting names right away. I started getting names of surgeons, and the doctors in that hospital started talking to me, and I didn't like them. Honestly, I think that we think because somebody's got on a white coat and they got all the degrees, we have to listen to them. And I realized early on, this is my body. This is literally life and death. And I don't have to take the first thing somebody says, like one day, 1 week, 2 months is not going to change my outcome, really. At least I'm not going to die. I'm like, it actually could change my outcome in terms of what surgeon I picked. And so I made a decision that despite what my family said and what everybody had an opinion. Oh my goodness. People were like, just drink some tea leaves. Yeah, oh, be quiet. Like, really? Drink some tea and put this cream on. And everybody thought they were going to heal me. And I knew that I had to go through this. I had to do the research. And so I did. I called New York. I called Virginia. I went to Virginia. I live in Maryland. Johns Hopkins Hospital is in Maryland, world-renowned hospital. I went to Johns Hopkins. I started out at University of Maryland. I went to Atlanta, and I talked to people and I read. And then after that, it was on me. I prayed. I'm married. I talked to my husband. But at the end of the day, my husband said, look, this is a you decision. This is between you and God. And I'm just along for the ride. And whatever you say or do, I'm going to support. So it was really just a lot of cutting out all the noise. Historically, this is an African American thing. It's no secret. There's some mistrust with the medical community, and especially hospitals like Hopkins, who are research hospitals, because of this community's history with research and Tuskegee and all kinds of things. And so my mother was like, no, Hopkins, they just gonna test you and poke you and do all these things. And she was adamant that I not go to Hopkins. And I ended up at Johns Hopkins. But it was a long process. I did not, again, I was diagnosed end of July. I started treatment on my birthday, or like the day before my birthday, August 22nd or 23rd of 2024. So it was about a month of driving, seeing people, and really just getting the information that I needed to make the best decision for me.
Every time I talk to you, I try not to cry. And I feel it coming.
Well, now you know what I went through. I used to cry every time I talked to you. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
I want to take it back a little. Because so much of your story is rooted in self-trust. Prior to you even getting that diagnosis, you were making a big career decision.
Oh my goodness. I had landed my dream job. When I first met you, I was in my dream job, and I won't even sugarcoat it, y'all. I was going through hell on that dream job.
Let's tell us what the job was, though, like your
I
title and
was hired as an executive. I was the first executive hire for a brand new federal agency. And who gets to start a new federal agency? They're all, already in existence. And so I was hired to be kind of like the hub, leading people and administrative functions, an executive officer type role. The office was called Strategic Resources, and I had initially like IT and admin and HR and all that stuff. And the agency literally didn't exist. I showed up 2 weeks before Congress even officially authorized and gave us money. And my job was to get the agency up and running. The first director that was appointed by the president at the time, she came after me. I helped onboard her. And so it was a stressful job in that, people say that thing about building the plane while flying. It was literally just really fast paced. Everything was coming at me. Everybody had a different opinion. You know what they say about opinions. So there was just it was intense, very fast paced. This was a scientific research organization, health research, very lofty, like really big goals, really fast paced. And so when I met you, it was at a time I was walking into this new executive role. I needed an executive coach, and there was just so much there, and I needed help. And so everybody, that's why I ended up, I thought I was going to like come into this session and have this executive coach. And I just cried my whole session because I was tired. It was, 12-hour days every single day. The weight of the whole thing I felt like was on me. And then because I had the historical knowledge, as people would come in, they would just come into me for everything. And it was a lot. It was a lot. So I did that job. And I think I was probably about a year in with you when I started saying, I've given this job a lot, and I'm going to give it a few more months, and then it's time for me to be out. As you know, I applied and started seeing, and I what I said was, when I apply for a job, it's easy to say, I want to get out of this thing. And so you just run to the next thing. People do it in relationships, jobs, with men, with women, whatever. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not going to just jump to something. And so I waited and waited and watched. And it's so funny because a person that had mentored me told me she was retiring, and I said it tongue in cheek, but I meant it, like, I want your job. And I waited. She told me when she was retiring, and she said, well, you have to compete. And
you did compete.
I did compete. So they announced that job and several other jobs with a big federal agency, an executive officer job. And so with the office of the director, and that job and several others opened, and I threw my name out there. And I got 3 interviews. I got 2 offers, and I had to talk to a certain person who was on this podcast to remind me, like, that is the job you wanted. That is the job you went after. What is the question? What is the question? Like, why are you faltering?
Because you were going with that instant feeling of this felt right, but you were no longer thinking about the long term.
Right. I wasn't, because those people at that other one, they were just being really nice to me. And I was like, well, wow, look at them. Maybe they're nice too. They offered me this job. So anyway, I ended up accepting the job that I had set my sights on and that I really wanted. And I was supposed to start July 29th, and I was diagnosed July 23rd.
The organization, that was one of the things that stood out to me. The power in trusting yourself. Because I always say the goal is not necessarily to feel better, it's to become better. And in you making that choice to slow down and really go with the other job, you ended up in an organization that understood your diagnosis
So
that you didn't.
crazy. Whatever you believe, whether it's the universe, some people just believe stuff happens. And I'm like, okay, if that's what y'all believe. But I believe that there's a power greater than us, operating. And so when I accepted the position, I had to call. That was supposed to be my week off, transitioning, relaxing. And so I called the head of the organization, and it's a health organization. And I said, hey, I got this thing going on. And this guy did not flinch. He said, you have three responsibilities, and that's to get better, to get better, and to get better. You take care of yourself, whatever you need. And it was funny because my old job, I had decided my former boss at the job that I was leaving was an MD. And so I used all my resources. I'm telling you, I had no shame. And he was an MD with some big connections, And I called him and said, you have any connections at Hopkins, where, Harvard, whatever, wherever I need some connections. And he actually got me to the surgeon who I ended up selecting. But he called me and said, listen, in light of this diagnosis, do you want to stay here longer? I was like, I don't know what I can say. I don't know if I can say bad words, but I was like, no, no, thank you. I knew it was right, when I got here and to get the reaction from my boss. I was connected to big research in this field. I was connected to people who had operated at a very high level with this specific cancer. Next thing I know, I'm on the phone with people and they're like telling me whether I'm making the right decision. They're giving me other advice. And I was like, wow, look at how everything just came together. And so I know I made the right decision taking this job, and I'm still here. That was a year and a half ago.
I get chills every time I hear your story. And I get chills because it's this reminder that life is going to press on us. It's going to demand more from us. Here you were walking into this dream job and not even knowing that you were ready for a challenge, but you didn't know that this was the challenge that you were going to walk into. But because you trusted yourself, the world opened up to you in so many different ways and you didn't have to shrink. In fact, if I go back to when you started handling this situation and how you lumped friends, family, including myself, what was the thinking behind this? Because it's cancer, it's a C word, it's fearful, and people are afraid of that diagnosis. And
It is scary. It was and is. I'm not gonna lie. It's still scary. But I don't live in that fear. I remember my grandma died in 2015. And when she passed away, everybody can't handle sickness, and you have to respect that. And so I couldn't always respect that. And I had a family member who couldn't do it, couldn't come see her. And I was angry. Like, you need to get over here and see this woman. She is sick. And I remember he said, I don't want to see her dying. And I said, she ain't dying right now. She is alive. She can talk. She can, and I remember thinking, I am not, until I take my last breath, I'm not dying. This is the life I have. No, it's not what I would have bargained for. It's not what I would have wanted. But this is the life that I have. And I have to live that life as best I can. I have to honor that life. I've always enjoyed having fun. So why should I stop now? Why should I start? I had a friend, God bless her. One day she's going to see this. Hey, Brittany. And every time I talk to her, that child would cry. Oh, Lord, she would cry on FaceTime. I like FaceTiming my friends. And she would cry every time. She would get teared up. And I finally had to hang up on her. And I said, if you're going to be crying, we can't talk, because I'm the one with the diagnosis. What the hell are you crying? Oops, sorry. What are you crying for? What are you crying for? And I get that people love me, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for that, because I, just like anybody else, I have good days and bad days. Some days I'm mean to people. I still got people that love me. I'm grateful. But at this point, I don't want anybody crying and boo-hooing and all of that.
Is it that you don't want people crying for you, or you don't want people to define what this experience means for you?
If y'all want to cry, you cry somewhere else. Now, sometimes we cry together, and there's a cleansing in that. But the sad cry, I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it every time. I cry probably every day. And every time I talk to one of my friends, we sometimes laugh and cry at the same times. And there's power in that, But that, like, heavy sadness, grieving as if I'm gone already, that's the thing that I didn't want. And I didn't want people operating like I was already gone, or like I had one foot in the grave. I can still do things. I can still talk to you. I wanted to know about people's kids and their jobs and their husband who didn't put the dishes in the dishwasher right, and all the things that we always talked about. I didn't want that to change. And suddenly this thing became, every time I talked to somebody, they were like, "Are you okay? How are you doing? How are you feeling? Is there anything I can do for you?" And then there would be silence. And I would be like, "Well, I mean, you can get me a gift certificate to the laundry service." And they'd be like, "Okay." And then they'd be quiet. And I'm like, "So give me the tea on your job. What's up with that cute guy at your job? Let's talk about something other than this, because this is not my life. This is not defining me. I refuse to allow cancer to be Kelly. Cancer is not Kelly. I have it. It does not have me. I am still Kelly, and I want to be treated like Kelly."
Right.
Here she goes.
Oh
She
my
get ready.
gosh.
She get ready to cry, y'all. She get ready to cry.
Every time I talk,
I love her, but I love
Kelly
her
was
tears.
not playing with any of us. You will not treat me as if
No.
I am cancer. And I think that that's so powerful. I tell you, so you don't, when you do this work, a lot of people think that you're the one pouring back into other people, but you end up pouring back into others as well. I talk a lot about capacity, but your story took capacity to another level for me. I remember when I talked to you the next time and you told me it came back. And I already knew how you felt about it. So after the call, I had a few tears on the
You
call.
did.
And I went in the room with my husband and I just pulled the cover over my head and I just cried. And I was like, she told me it came back. And I said, not only did she tell me that it came back, but she is choosing not to do the chemo anymore.
Yeah. I read all the literature, just for just so you have a little context. I'm a reader, I'm a researcher, I'm a lawyer by training. So I read, so I had read the statistics, and they were not pretty. So I knew going in that God can do anything and change this trajectory, and that doctors are only practicing and they often get surprised by outcomes. But I did read the expected outcomes, and they were not good. And so I finished chemo in April of 2025, and then I had some scans in July, and there was some concerning stuff on the scans. And my doctor instantly wanted to do like all these extra tests. And I had told my doctor back in probably December, right after my surgery, look, chemo is expected to finish in April. I'm out in May. I got trips for May, June, July, August, September, October, November. I'm only stopping in November because I'm a Christmas person and I wanted to enjoy the holidays. So when he told me, I said, "Okay, what do you want me to do?" He started right away talking about chemo and some other things. And I said, "Wait a minute, I'm going to Spain next month." And I said, "What else is there?" What he said was, because this cancer has spread. It is considered stage 4, and we are no longer talking cure. We are talking treatment as long as it works. We are talking treatment for the rest of your life. I said, okay. And I said, well, what is this treatment going to look like? Is it the same chemo? No, it's a different chemo. It's a chemo that they give breast cancer patients. He said, well, it's generally gentler. Well, gentler is subjective because the chemo that I had was the most aggressive chemo you can have. It's 46 hours, 3 days of chemo, basically straight. And so he said, this is a little different. You will lose your hair. Your immune system will be wrecked. You will be weak. And I was like, I just grew, look at this hair. I just grew this hair. Not to be vain, but also I don't want to be weak. I told y'all I'm out here about to travel. So no, this is not going to work for me. What else? So I went to Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York. I went to Virginia. I called places. I talked to people. And a couple people said, a clinical trial is something to look into. And I kept that in the back of my mind, but I did my trips. In July, I was in California for a sorority conference. I had gone to Portugal in June. August, September, I spent 2 weeks in Spain. I was just out here enjoying myself. I just kept traveling. I went to Costa Rica. And so between trips, he wanted me to do a biopsy. And I have some mixed feelings about biopsy. Some of it is based on science. Some of it is just a fear. And I said, I'm not going to do the biopsy, but I'll do a PET scan. I did a PET scan, and the PET scan lit up. And when it lights up, it's showing cancerous cells. And so it showed cancer in the liver. And there were 2 spots near the lungs that they were watching. They were really, really tiny. And I said, okay. And I just kept on. I didn't tell anyone except my husband initially. No one. I just kept on traveling. So eventually when I came back from Europe, I agreed to do to go ahead and do the biopsy. Because they wanted to look at the genetics of the thing, and they wanted to test and all of that. And so I did eventually do that. And that's how we kind of got to where we were. And I signed up for a clinical trial. And in December last month, I got in a clinical trial and I started.
But you turned down chemo. I think
I
that's
turned it down.
very important. You said you were not doing chemo without knowing if you were getting to a clinical trial.
Yeah. I said, and it's funny because my oncologist, who is, I wonder if he'll watch this one day, but when you are in this kind of situation, you either get close to your doctors or you hate them. And I really adore my oncologist. And I know for a fact that I'm one of his favorite patients. I just tell, he would show up. I'm like, this is not your day in a clinic. What you doing here while I'm at chemo? But we text, and he was pushing. And we would video call, and he would just, say my name, calls me Miss, and he would say, I really think, and one day he said he respected that I held out for the trial. If I had done chemo, I would not have been eligible for the clinical trial. Now, do we know the outcome? No, we don't. There is literally like less than 2% research out here on this cancer. So nobody knows the outcome. They're going to treat it like pancreatic. They're going to treat it like the most serious thing in that area because there's nothing else. Not only that, people that do get this cancer are usually older white males. So how I got it, if you haven't noticed, I am not white. I am not an older male. But I got it. So my doctor eventually said, I will monitor you until you make a decision. And I know it was uncomfortable for him, but that wasn't my problem.
It was uncomfortable for all of us, Kelly.
I have my own problems. Y'all gonna sit in this discomfort. And and everybody did. By then a very small group of people knew. And as of this recording, only less than 10 people. No. I waited. And I was in Costa Rica. I was on my last day in Costa Rica. My friends retired there, and I was sitting on their balcony in the morning, and I got the call. And they said, your name has come up for this trial. I didn't even say what it is. What is it? What? I didn't even ask what is it. I just said, okay. And they said, we need to see you, and we're going to, start all this testing. And I said, okay, you know what? We're going to just see. But had I done chemo, I wouldn't be eligible for the trial. And so I'm in the trial. I've been in the trial for a month now, and we're just going to see.
What's the difference between chemo and being in the trial?
Actually, honestly, logistically, chemo would have been a lot easier because where I live, I am going against traffic to get to Johns Hopkins. I have more family in that area. I'm going south. I'm going to Virginia for treatment. The cadence is more. So logistically, it's a little bit rough on me, honestly. So if anybody lives near Fairfax, Virginia, and you want to host me, let me know. But I think in terms of the actual treatment, I take my laptop. If I feel like working, I do. If I don't, I use leave. One thing, I've been a good steward of my resources, and I'm a worker, so I don't burn a lot of leave until it's time for me to get on a plane. I earn a lot of leave, so I take leave if I have to, if I don't feel like working. But I also sometimes just want the time to pass. It's very short. My previous chemo, I would sit for 6 to 8 hours and have my infusion, and sometimes have to stay for testing and that kind of thing. And then I would do a take-home pump attached to me 46 hours straight. And I wouldn't be able to work a lot of it. So this, I work. Someone drives me, usually my husband. I go home. The next day, I'm usually feeling pretty good. I do get sick. I guess once a week I get sick. I get sick when I have treatment. About an hour after, I get sick, and then I take my little medicine. I go home. I sleep it off. The next day, I have the benefit of telework due to my medical condition. So I work from home that day. And then the day after that, I get in my car. I get up at 5 a.m. and I drive to work. And I come to my beautiful office with my beautiful team, and I work.
Since having this diagnosis, what's changed internally and externally?
Internally, I'll start with so much. It's just the perspective everything is different. Like when I'm driving down, it's like an out of body experience. When I'm driving down the street, like, wow, look how pretty that is. Look at that. This morning, even, I was like, come on, get over. Now, I used to be a very aggressive driver. What is the big deal? What is it going to hurt me to let someone over? And if you're from the DMV area, 495, 95 is like the battle of the fittest. But you know what? I don't have time to be beeping my horn, getting my blood pressure up. I got other things to worry about. I turn on a podcast. I turn on my music. You want to get over? Have at it. The people behind me are beeping. Stop letting the whole line over. I'm like, come on, everybody get in. The stress of certain things that were stressors, I just had to let it go. I've had to let relationships go. And I don't have the benefit of the time or the energy, the headspace to even spend a lot of time explaining about it. It's just, it wasn't working. It didn't work for me. And I know people are going to say, well, you didn't even tell the people. No, they know because I don't answer their call anymore. I mean, I stopped responding to their text messages. Obviously, something's changed. And then vice versa. I used to people who, some people are in your life for a season, and people change their mind about me too. And maybe rightfully so. Maybe I said something they didn't like or whatever. I stopped worrying about it. If they decide to let me go.
Tell us why that's so important to you, because if you think about my content, I often talk about avoidance versus choice. And I want you to make the distinction between this is me not avoiding people.
I am
this
not
is not
avoiding
me
people.
avoiding the diagnosis, but
nope. The diagnosis is here. I'm not avoiding it. I told you, and I told everybody in my group that knows, I am choosing and planning to live. I am preparing to die. I know this thing, but guess what? This thing might not kill me. I could go right out here, get in my car come around the corner, run me over, and I could be dead, right? I am preparing to die. My will is done. I've done my documents. I've left certain instructions. I've told the hairdresser how I want my hair to look when I'm laying in that casket. I've told the nail lady that I don't even wear nails, but I said I want it all, right? I'm preparing to die. There's certain things, certain accounts. I have a child with special needs, certain things that I had to put in place. Had to tell my husband, if I'm gone, it's okay for you to find somebody else. I'm preparing to die. But right now, Kelly is living. Make no mistake about it. I am choosing to live. I see people. This is not just some like I saw it on TV. I see these people when I go to treatment. Oh, they come in. I'm like, my God, they act like they got one foot in the grave. And maybe we do, right? But guess what? Today, right now, I'm living. I come in there, I say, good morning. Hey, everybody. What y'all doing? With the lady come around with the little cart and the snacks. And I tell her, I'm not eating any of that. It's got sugar. Sugar is the devil for cancer patients. Like, I can't eat that. But I talk to her. I read the magazines. I am living. This is the life I have. No need crying about it. No need saying, why did I get it? No need saying this is not fair. How come this people out here who are doing all these bad things didn't get it? That is a waste.
At some point,
it's a waste.
Did you fall into that?
I was angry for about 3 days. And eventually, maybe by this time, you will be able to share. It's private now. You have my Instagram page, but I have a private Instagram page that only the two of us have access to. She needs to watch it in case I go off the rails and she thinks she might need to call 911. But I posted it, a throwback poem I wrote a few days after, and this was in the beginning. I haven't been in that space since the beginning. But in the beginning, I had a time where for a couple days, I didn't even recognize myself. I was angry. I would ride past the cemetery, and then everybody was driving me, and I rode past the cemetery and say, I'm gonna be in there in probably a few months. I wrote this poem. Oh, it was hard. It was mean. It was probably stemming from my friend who was crying. And I was angry. Oh, I was angry. I don't want to live in that space. I made a choice not to be in that space. I have a choice. And angry is all the things that I don't like. It's ugly. It's hard. It's work. Right? I like fun. I like joy. It's easier. It's really easier to find
joy is hard too, though. Anger is hard too.
Anger is hard on you. I mean, the tension, the work you have to do. I mean, to be so angry. And then it doesn't benefit you.
What was the work you had to do in order to be angry?
I mean, that's not my natural state. I mean, and maybe for some people that's their natural state, so they don't have to work at it. But, being mean to people, just being tight and tense, it didn't feel good to me. It did, and I wanted to feel as good as I possibly could. So I had to let that go. And when I got the diagnosis, I was like, when I got the second time, when they set us back, I was just like, okay. I said, I literally said to my doctor, so what you gonna do about it? And when he told me my options, I was like, okay, I'll get back to you on that. And he was looking at me like, what do you mean you're gonna get back to me? When I say this man was ready to go, while we were talking, my phone was going off. You have an appointment. He wanted me to get, chemo patients have a port, and I had it taken out because I wanted it out for my bathing suit. And he wanted me to get it back in. I had the appointments. My thing was just going like this. And I said, okay, well, we'll see.
So good, Kelly. And I'm glad that you are choosing to share your story. I'm inspired. I'm a fan. I'm glad that I've looked at every post too. I've looked at every post on your private social media page, but you are a true reflection of what it means to have capacity and develop your capacity. You
There is a
chose not to
quote.
shrink.
Let me tell you, there's a quote, and this is serendipity, just that I even came across. But a few years ago during the pandemic, I was following like America's Got Talent, one of those things or something. There was a lady on there named Nightbird, and beautiful singer, quirky little skinny like me, and now I know why, real tiny little lady. And she was singing in this off key but beautiful soul stirring way, and I was like, who's this Nightbird lady? And when I went back to hear what I missed from the beginning, she was telling the story about how she had terminal cancer, and she was just still out here trying to get on, get to the next level of this talent thing. And she had this quote: "You can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you choose to be happy." And that thing, I don't know why, I wasn't sick. That thing struck me. And I flipped back since then because I reposted it, and I remember, reposting that quote many times and using that quote at work and in different formats. But that always comes back to my head. You can't wait until life isn't hard anymore, because there's always going to be some shit, ain't it? Excuse me. It's always going to be something. And let me stop, because all the church people are like, oh, she cursing. Listen, it's always going to be something. While you're waiting, your whole life is passing you by. So it's a choice. It's a choice to be happy. I'm not avoiding the hard stuff. It's here all around me. I go to treatment once a week and throw up, and I get up and keep on going. I'm not avoiding cancer. I'm not avoiding treatment. I chose an alternative treatment. I'm not in denial. The trajectory says that in 3 more years I won't be here, and we'll see. We'll see about that. In the meantime, what am I going to do with those next years? What am I going to do with this month? I got a trip to Costa Rica planned. Now, I do buy the insurance. I ain't crazy. I'm not going to throw away my money. I got Costa Rica. I have a European cruise. I got another cruise with my daughter. One of my children is getting married, and I said to her, like, did we really have to make it in 27? And she says, tell you what kind of kids I produce. Well, actually, I didn't produce this one. I inherited this one. Her mom and I were friends. Her mom died when she was 13. And so I'm mom. And she said to me, well, I got one dead mother. I'm like, what kind of, you need a therapist. And she is a therapist. She is a therapist. But she said to me, well, I've already told my fiance, if things get really real, we'll just have a wedding, because you have to be there. And if it looks like things are escalating, we'll have a wedding before the wedding. And at first I started to ask her, like, well, how's that working? You're gonna have 2 anniversaries. And she said, this is my decision, and he's on board, and that's it. And I said, okay, adult. All righty then. So you know what? Life is crazy, but it's also, even now, there's so much beauty in it, and I see it every day. And I when I find myself getting irritated by little stuff, I just have to take a step back and be like, let's put it all into perspective here. Let's put it all in perspective.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I know you take your share. I'll read the comments. Y'all better stop coming for my girl in the comments. She is amazing. You were such a help to me. I thought I was coming to you initially for executive coaching, and you really were so much more to me. So I thank you for all that you have taken your time to pour into me, extra time, because our sessions always went over because I was too busy. I was too busy crying and complaining about my crazy boss.
Well, thank you, because I just believe that you always get the people that you need. I talk a lot about discomfort, but your story invited a lot of discomfort for me where you really have to sit with the person. I mean, there were times I remember when you told me that you didn't want the chemo and I didn't say anything. But in the back of my mind, I wanted to be like, Kelly, what? Why? Why? I didn't say a word, but I wanted to.
I know.
And it's a reminder that in this work, the best thing that you can do for people is empower and make sure that they have that agency, because when that agency is present, I do believe that the world opens up. And that's what you've always done, whether we were talking about your leadership roles or your health as a whole. And I am truly inspired. When I thought about what I wanted this podcast to be about, you were one of the first people that I thought about. And I was like, she doesn't shrink to anything. And just your values, how you love your family. Like, I feel like I know your husband. Like, they are rock solid.
They are. They are amazing. My whole family is truly a gift. A gift.
But it's a reflection of who you are too. Like, your community reflects who you are. And that says a whole lot.
I feel like I'm constantly evaluating that. That community has gotten a lot tighter since all of this. And I keep thinking, my husband's like, who do you want to tell? And some of it is, I want the love and I want the empathy and I want the support, but I don't want sympathy. I don't want people to feel obligated to do anything. And there's a difference. I just told a core, I'm going to say this one thing. I told 4 friends, I'm in this wine club, and I'll tell people, you need your friends. They're going to be there to help you bury husbands and get divorces and go through hard things. And so I'm with my little wine club, and I can't drink. I don't drink anymore. Haven't since the diagnosis, but they're having wine and we're out at this place. And I said, I'm gonna go ahead and tell this. It was only a few of them. And I said, I'm going to tell them. And so I told them, and they, there was some tears. And then it was like, so do we need to take you to treatment because your husband travels? So it was instant. It was literally like, and then one of them was like, yeah, I need another shot. And then it was instant, and it was a lot of laughter through the tears. And so I texted the group the other day, like, I have my husband's travel schedule. I need some rides. And they were on it. And
I think you've taught all of us how to hold
I love that.
A little more discomfort, for sure.
We can hold more than we think we can.
We can. We can. Yeah. We can. And on that note, I'm going to close it out.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you.
This conversation calls you to pause or reflect on how you're showing up in your own life. That's intentional. Capacity is revealed in the moments we choose engagement over retreat. Thank you so much for spending time with us. I'm Raquel Hopkins, and this is Capacity Combos. If you're looking to continue to engage with me, I would encourage you to follow me on Instagram. You can search me by Raquel the Capacity Expert. It's Raquel _the_capacity_expert. Until next time.